Hi, I'm James Ball, founder of the Interview Academy, and welcome to our series on how to answer the most common interview questions that you're ever likely to face. The first question is, tell me about yourself. Now, I've been in the recruitment industry for nearly 20 years, and from my experience, this is a question that you're almost guaranteed to get asked in an interview. So it's absolutely vital that you make sure that you get the answer to this question fully prepped in your head. Now, whilst I can't tell you exactly what to say because I'm not you, I've no idea what your strengths and weaknesses are, and I've got no idea what kind of job you're looking for, there are some very right and some very wrong ways of answering this question. The first thing you should do when planning your answer is to consider the following three main points. Number one, what does your interviewer actually want to hear? Number two, what have you got that they want? And number three, what proof have you got? Because obviously there's no point in just saying something that they want to hear without being able to give some very specific examples of how you can do it. The best bit of advice I could give you is to get hold of a job specification in advance of the interview. The recruiter should be able to send you a copy in advance if you haven't got one. When you get it, go through it a few times. Highlight any qualifications or skills or experiences that you see on it that match yours. 2 or 3 accomplishments or skills should be enough for what you need to do for this task. Then what you need to do is to mold all of those into a really good answer about yourself and your strengths. Now, another great thing to talk about in this answer is what got you first interested in your current career path and what your plans are for the future. But only do this if you think that this is relevant and impressive to the company. So, for example, did a particular experience at school or college get you interested in the industry? Or maybe environmental sustainability is something that you've always wanted to fight for. Whatever your personal circumstances, make sure that your answer fits with their requirements. Don't go off topic, don't start rambling about experiences you had years and years ago, what you like doing in your spare time and how your aim in life is to settle down and start a family. None of those are bad things, and whilst you might feel that they're relevant to the question because you're asking about yourself, they're not relevant. The interviewer is asking you this question for a very specific reason, and that's to find out how suitable you are for the job and not your entire life history. Now, normally this question is one of the first you'll have to face in an interview, so ultimately it can potentially frame the rest of the interview and how it's going to pan out. So giving a really impressive answer which instantly identifies you as a potentially suitable candidate for the role puts you on a very strong footing from the off. Basically, all you really need to remember when answering this question is this: how will you benefit them? So as an example, if I was applying to a marketing role, for instance, I might say something like this. I studied English and philosophy at university and took a marketing module in the first year, which I found really fascinating. And this ignited my passion for digital, and I spent a lot of my spare time reading up on the latest techniques and tools involved in the marketing process. This helped me get my first job as a marketing assistant straight out of university. And I've now been at that agency for 10 years, and I've led a variety of different campaigns, which included one which made the client £100,000 in a week. And I'm hoping to move on to an in-house role so I can really get my teeth stuck into a business and see the results of my hard work. Now, this answer is good because it's detailed and it's relevant and it flows well together, and I'm not just throwing facts at you. Another bit of advice with this question is to keep it snappy. Don't waffle if your nerves will allow it, and your answer should last for no longer than 30 seconds. And one last thing, keep it natural. You don't want to sound like a robot. So whilst your answer should be practiced and rehearsed, make sure that it doesn't sound stilted. The second question to consider is, why should we hire you? Okay, this is a question that gets asked a lot in interviews, and if you think about it from an interviewer's perspective, you can understand why they ask it. It's a question that instantly puts you on the spot, and it's an opportunity to express the skills that you've got that others won't have. Basically, it's your chance to shine and position yourself as being the must-have employee. So this requires you to put across exactly how you can benefit the company and why you're so much better than everybody else who has applied for that role. And what the question is basically asking is this: why are you better than all of the other people we are going to interview? What makes you different to them? And that's the tricky bit, because somehow you need to stand out. And believe me, a lot of candidates fall down at this point in an interview. They'll say something along the lines of, because I'm the best. but that means absolutely nothing, especially if you haven't got any stats or facts to back it up. So think about what could give you the edge on other people. What makes you extra special? What one thing could you say that no other candidate in the process is likely to say? When you're preparing for this question, get hold of the job specification and ask the recruiter if you haven't got one, and they should be able to send a copy across to you. Now, the reason you need this is because you need to know exactly what your interviewer is looking for in the perfect person so that you can build your answer around their requirements. Once you know that, align your own skills and experiences with them and start putting your answer together. Your answer should show that you understand the business, you understand the role, and that you're more than capable of fulfilling their needs and wants. Your answer should also show why you can do that better than anybody else. So, when you're preparing your answer, follow this precise course of action. Number 1, write down a list of your skills and qualifications and any training courses that you attended over the last few years. Number 2, make a note of any statistics that you can quote which will back up your claims. So if you've been the top salesperson for several years, make sure you quote how much revenue you generated and what percentage of your sales target this equates to. And remember that stats really impress people and add a lot of credibility to your claim. Number 3, have a look at that list and at the same time take a look at the job specification. Number 4, what matches, what stands out, and what do you think is unique to you? And number 5, if you can't find one unique skill or experience, then use a combination of skills and experiences which are unique to you and help you stand out. So let's work through a real life example. Let's say you're applying for a senior sales role for a digital marketing agency who want people with experience in the industry and are comfortable dealing at board level. Your answer to why should we hire you could be something like this. You should hire me because I've been a senior salesperson for 2 digital marketing agencies over the last 10 years, dealing directly with senior directors and decision makers all of the time, and in that time I was the top salesperson for 7 of those 10 years, averaging 2.2 million in revenue, which equates to 176% of my target on average. An answer like that shows that you've got industry experience, you're used to dealing with senior contacts, and that you're really good at what you do. I suppose one final key bit of advice when building your answer is to treat the job specification or even the online job advert like a wish list or an exam question. Your job is to make sure that you address their key requirements using your own skills and experiences and positioning yourself as the best person for the job. The next question you need to think about is, what is your biggest weakness? Okay, hands up. I personally hate this interview question, but that's not to say that it doesn't get asked all of the time, because it does. Now, personally, I've had to answer it many times right at the beginning of my career, and I can honestly say I've always struggled with it. It's only when I started in recruitment that it finally clicked in my head what the question really means. But before I tell you how you should answer it, there's something that you absolutely shouldn't do, and that's to lie. Everybody has a weakness, so don't make the schoolboy error of saying, I haven't got any weaknesses. All that's going to happen if you say that is that the interviewer will think that you're really arrogant, and it will give you an instant black mark against your name. Also, you've got to be careful not to be too truthful, because let's be honest, you don't want to go off on a ramble about how terrible you are at X, Y, and Z, because that's also not what an interviewer wants to hear. You have to be tactical. You have to select weaknesses that make you look human and not incompetent. Finally, and this is possibly the worst thing you can do, don't say some kind of cliche answer like, I'm a perfectionist, or I work too hard, or anything cheesy like that. Honestly, answers like those say nothing and they just irritate interviewers. And I should know because I've heard it thousands of times. So that's what you shouldn't do. No lies, no awful confessions, and absolutely no cliches. So now you know that, how should you build your answer? Well, in my experience, the best answers obviously include a weakness, but the best candidates will use that weakness to reveal some positive attributes about themselves. So, briefly state your weakness, then show 1 or 2 positive characteristics about yourself that are helping you to overcome that weakness. Now, that might sound complicated, but it's really not. So, for example, you could say something like this. I'm not great at time management. I'm definitely guilty of overcommitting and trying to do too much at once, and then I often struggle at prioritising my workload, but I've been working on it over the last few months, and I found an online time management course which I personally subscribe to, and it's really starting to pay off for me. It's just helped me look at things in a completely different way, and this led to me being far more productive and focused. Now in this example, time management is obviously the weakness, and the strengths are dedication, passion, initiative, and proactivity. You want to take some time to really show how you've improved your situation and you've become more employable because of it. The only thing to be careful of here is using the example I've just given you. If time management skills are a must for the role, then saying something like that might just shoot you in the foot. So plan your answer carefully in conjunction with the vacancy job specification or even the online job advert that you saw when you applied for the role. And if you haven't got either, just ask the recruiter to send them across to you in advance of your interview. The fourth question is, what is your biggest strength? Now, everybody expects to get asked what your biggest weakness is in an interview, but not many expect to be asked what their biggest strength is. So take a moment and think about it. What are you best at doing? Now, there might not be one shining thing that instantly comes to mind, but initially write down everything that you can think of. Now, grab hold of the job specification for the role that you're applying for and match your strengths with the company's requirements. Look over your list that you made earlier and try and work out if there's one strength which aligns closest to the company's biggest desire in the job spec. Now, this task might not necessarily be straightforward. You're going to have to decipher what the company is really looking for, and to do this, it's a really good idea to build a list of what you think are the most desired skills and strengths from the job spec. From that, prioritize and rank each of the company's desirable skills and strengths and match them to your own. Once you've done both of those tasks, you should have the basis for your answer. When you've got your answer, you now have to prove it. What evidence have you got to back up your claims? What experiences, skills, training, or results can you demonstrate with your answer? Like with any other interview question you get asked, you need to be able to prove yourself and why someone should pick you to work for them over everybody else. So for example, if your biggest strength lies in people management, start with explaining a bit of the backstory. Do you currently work with a small or a big team? Are there a wide range of backgrounds, ages, and seniorities within that team? What do you do that makes everyone enjoy or at least respect working with you? Then what you have to do is state some facts to go with that. Maybe a number of employees have asked to transfer to your team in the last year because people respect your leadership. Or perhaps you've impressed your senior managers so much when you were managing one team that they've now added 2 more teams to your remit. Has your company seen an upsurge in sales since you took on the management position? Stats and facts work a lot better than just saying something random and hoping that it sticks. One last thing, keep in mind that your strength, your key strength, has to be relevant to the job. You should have worked out exactly what your interviewer wants in the job specification, so make sure that your strengths will actually be something that they're looking for. There's absolutely no point in saying you're a brilliant administrator when you're applying to be a salesperson. And whilst I know that sounds really obvious, you'd be surprised at how many people get this really wrong. So to recap, make a list of all of your strengths, marry them up to the job spec's desired skills and strengths, and pick your best strength which most closely aligns to what the company is looking for. The next question you need to think about is, what do you know about our company? There is a very strong chance that you'll get asked this question in an interview. And honestly, if you can't answer it, then your chances of getting the job instantly reduce to 0. I've had people turn up to interviews that I'm running who answer with nothing really. And as an interviewer, it just puts you completely off the person. Because firstly, they haven't been bothered to do any company research, so it makes them look lazy. And secondly, it displays a complete lack of passion or get up and go. Finally, it makes them look that they can't be bothered about the company's job. And that's the key thing. The employer wants to know that you're passionate and interested in their opportunity. And if you display that you're not, they simply won't recruit you. You absolutely must, at the very least, have 1 or 2 things to say about the company. These will ideally be points you found out during your online company research. But the things that you really should know include what the company actually does, the company mission statement, which you should be able to find out on the website, and any recent news stories that the company might have been involved in. And again, a quick Google search and the company name, followed by a click on the news button at the top of Google will help you with that. And finally, who their competitors are. Now, you'll definitely have to do some research on this to work it out, but being able to answer this question is potentially really impressive. It may also help you answer another common interview question which recruiters ask, which is, do you know who our competitors are? So the main point is, do your research. Check out the company's website, social media, Glassdoor, and any other marketing material that you can get your hands on. And if you do this, you'll be able to prepare your answer in advance. Then you should use quotes and facts that you found out during the research and give reasons why they appeal to you or why you found them interesting. If it helps, take your notes into the interview with you. It won't annoy the interview if you do this because nobody would expect you to remember everything. In fact, walking in with a set of pre-prepared notes will show that you are the kind of person who's committed, passionate, and interested in the role in the company. Having this kind of knowledge will really impress any interviewer. So for example, if you're applying for a job at a recruitment agency and you get asked, what do you know about the company? You might say, you specialise in sales and marketing recruitment, there are about 40 people in the business, and you've worked with some great brands like National Express and TM Lewin. You typically recruit for some high-end roles and you offer a more quality-driven support than the average agency, which is why I found the role so compelling. Just remember though, don't go overboard and take it steady. A little praise is great and it shows you're passionate about the role, but you don't want to look like you're sucking up too much in the hopes of getting a job. So to recap, do your research and do it well, and the answer to this question will be easy. The sixth question you need to prepare for is, why do you want to work for this company? This question is really common and is a natural follow-on from the question, what do you know about the company? A lot of people also confuse this with, why have you applied? Or why should we hire you? But in truth, this question is a lot more specific than that. If your interviewer asks you this, they want to know why you want to work for their company. They're going to want you to display a real understanding of their actual company, their culture, their values, and the industry in general, and exactly why these things made you apply. The question is specifically asked to see whether you're genuinely interested in the company or if you're just applying for any job you can find on the internet. And to that extent, the question is designed to catch those kind of people out, and that's because companies want to hire people who love their brand and their business. Now, for most companies, that might be a bit too ambitious, but what it basically boils down to is that they believe that people who love their brand and company are more likely to be passionate and dedicated, and ultimately will be the people who are most likely to push the business forward. What you need to remember is that an interview is just as difficult for an interviewer as it is for the interviewee, basically because they've got about an hour to decide whether you're going to be a good fit for their business or not. And the cost of making a mistake is potentially very expensive. And I should know because over the years, I've made several very big hiring mistakes. The interview is the company's only opportunity to work out, and in a very small time frame, whether the person sat opposite them can truly make a difference. That's why a question like this is so important and can be really powerful for the interviewer. So a really good answer to the why do you want to work for this company question could be something like, after doing some research, I feel like your company culture is dynamic, aggressive, and in a constant state of growth, which would offer me the chance to flourish. I've applied because I really want to grow within a vibrant team and culture, and I think your company could be the perfect match. Or even, I use company products all of the time, and I've done so for years. I'd be absolutely thrilled to join your team so I can help develop the technology in line with the brand. You want to properly highlight how connected you are to the company's mission statement and products or services while showing that you've made the effort to do some research. There's nothing worse than someone showing up to an interview without any idea about what the company does or the values or where it's positioned in the market. So as with most things interview related, make sure you do your research. Right, just a couple of warnings that you need to heed. Firstly, don't go absolutely wild if you get asked this question. You don't want to go on and on and on about how much you love a company and how you only want to work there and nowhere else, and how you ought to do anything to get the job. If you do, the chances are that you'll end up sounding desperate. And secondly, please, please, please make sure that you get your facts completely straight and don't quote made up stuff. You'll be speaking to someone that works for the business, so it's going to be incredibly embarrassing if you ramble on about something that is completely wrong. Seventh is the question, why are you leaving your current workplace? Now, this is an interview question which you're almost certainly going to get asked, and there are lots of very wrong things you can say, so make sure you're listening carefully. The reason why interviewers love this question is because it gives them an opportunity to work out just how serious you are about taking their role. It also potentially gives them an insight into your commitment levels and how likely you are to stay in their position should you be offered the job. That's because no company on the planet wants to recruit you for a new role only for you to leave 6 months later. That would cost the company tens of thousands and they'd have to start all over again, and nobody wants that. Another reason why it gets asked is because it gives the interviewer an opportunity to eliminate any time wasters. These days, it's incredibly common for someone to look for a job and get to the point of being offered the job only for them to use it as leverage to ask for more money with their current employer. Now, if that's you, and you know who you are, then part of the interviewer's job is to work out who you are, which is why you're going to get asked this question. So, how should you go about answering it, and what are the worst things you can say? Well, firstly, don't ever think about bad-mouthing your current company. Showing any kind of negativity can come across really badly, and the interviewer might think that you can't work well with others. Everyone's worked with a bad boss at some point. Mentioning it in an interview, though, really isn't a good idea. You also shouldn't be elusive. Simply saying "because I want a new job" just comes across like you're not bothered at all, or worse still, you're being guarded and not being honest. Now, a really common answer to this question is "my current role lacks the opportunity to progress." Now, whilst it's fine to say this, especially if it's true, A, it doesn't really say very much, B, everyone else says it, and C, if you want to set yourself apart from everyone else, you're going to have to think of something which is a little bit more interesting. Plus, you want to be careful that your answer doesn't come across like you've been stagnating for the past couple of years and you haven't done anything about it. So an example of a more passionate, rounded answer will be something like this. I'm a really creative person and I want to join a team who share my creativity. I've learned so much working with my current company, but I feel like my ideas for pushing the business forward have outgrown theirs. And in truth, I've got more to offer, a more innovative company. I want to wake up in the morning excited to go to work. Basically, most recruiters will know that salary, opportunities and personal issues are the main driving forces for anyone looking for a new job. But even saying that, they'd still much rather hire someone who also actually wanted to join them and not just any old company. So to recap, no bad mouthing, don't be elusive, and think of an answer where you can weave some positive traits in. The next question is, what salary are you looking for? Now, this is a question that gets asked in every interview. Firstly, it's really important to understand that the vast majority of companies will want to pay you the least it can get away with. Now, market forces, your skill level, and how in demand you are will determine what that figure is, but inevitably it may be lower than the number you're thinking of. When you get asked this question, it's really important to not just blurt out a figure you have in your mind. Salary negotiation is an integral part of any recruitment process, and rushing into your answer could mean that you either go in too high and don't get the job, or you go in too low and get it, but at a lower salary than you deserve. Normally, in my experience at least, you won't enter into a negotiation during an interview. Typically, your interviewer will ask you the question, you'll tell them the number, they'll write it down, and they'll refer to it when they make you a job offer. And it's at that stage that the negotiation starts. But getting this number right in the interview could make the difference between you getting the job or not, and at an appropriate salary. It's really important to remember that when you apply for a job these days, you'll have almost certainly done so online, and there should have been a salary or salary range in the advert. That's the figure you usually need to be working to. So the first thing you need to do is to make a note of that number and remember it before you go into the interview. If the salary wasn't on the advert, then go online and do some research. Go on Indeed.com and see what people in similar roles in the same area are being paid. Or speak to your recruiter and ask directly what the package is for the role. Now, there's some scope for ask for slightly more money than was advertised, but if you do, don't ask for too much, as you'll annoy the interviewer, and secondly, you'll need a really good reason as to why you deserve the extra cash. This will be particularly difficult if you haven't sold yourself well enough during the interview. If you ask for a number that's outside of the advertised range, the next obvious question you'll get asked is, why have you applied for this job if you know it's not paying what you want? I've had people sitting in front of me asking for £10,000 more than I'd advertised, and they crumble at this question. I've heard answers like, because I'm really good at what I do. And to be honest, that's not good enough and just annoyed the hell out of me. So when you're thinking of the salary you're going to ask for, bear all of that in mind. Good interviewers will also ask you what you're currently earning, and most people will leave a job in the expectation that they're going to earn more in the new role, and everybody knows that. But if the jump you're asking for is too big, that will also raise questions. So be ready for the follow-on questions about a lack of experience or the jump being too big. Typically what happens in those scenarios, if you get offered the job, is you get offered the job at a higher salary than you're currently earning, but lower than the one you asked for. Or worse still, lower than the salary that was advertised. But as I said earlier, it's at the offer stage where the negotiation starts and not in the interview. So with all of that in mind, a really good way to answer this question is like this. I'm currently earning £20,000, but after 2 years experience and a proven track record of A, B and C, I'm ready to take on more responsibility and I'm therefore looking for £23,000. Having done some research online, I think it's a fair salary for someone at my level. This answer is balanced. You don't want to be unrealistic, you don't want to be greedy, but you also don't want to undersell yourself. Remember, employers will pay you the least possible amount that they can get away with. If you want to be a little bit cheeky, you could throw the question back at them and say something on the lines of, based on the research I've done, I found that someone with similar experience to myself going to a similar role would earn between £22,000 to £26,000, but I understand that all companies are different, so can I ask you how much you would typically pay someone with my experience? An answer like this is a little softer. You're still setting your expectations, but you're putting the ball back in their court. This is a tactic to use only if you're a confident person and the interview's going well. Don't say it if you're the nervous type or if you're facing a difficult interviewer. On another note, it's probably wise not to apply for jobs that you wouldn't take because the advertised salary is much lower than you'd accept in the hope that you can push it up in a negotiation. You'll probably just end up wasting your time and the interviewers. The ninth question you need to plan for is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now, I've never been entirely sure why interviewers ask this question, as it doesn't really tell them much, but unfortunately the chances are that you will get asked this question at some point. So the key things to remember are that you need to get across the following. A, that you're going to remain loyal to the company for the foreseeable future. B, that you've got some ambition. And C, that you don't have ridiculous expectations. And obviously that you're not gunning for your new manager's job. If you tell your interviewer that in 5 years' time you expect to have their job, then guess what? You'll come across as confrontational and frankly unattractive, and it won't do you any favours. Your potential new manager wants to know that in 5 years you'll have made a brilliant impact in the business, and they'll think that hiring you was the best decision that they ever made. Now, whilst it's a question I don't like, given the likelihood of getting asked it, you need to prepare a good answer for it. Just saying, here, really isn't going to cut it. A better way of answering it would be something along the lines of the following. I'm looking to join a vibrant, growing business where there are clear opportunities for my personal growth, and I think my skills would eventually suit a people management role. I'm at the point in my career where I'd like to find a company to settle down and continue to grow within for the long term, and I really think this could be the one. So in 5 years, frankly, I can happily see myself here. Don't get cocky and tell your interviewer that you'd like their job in the future, and don't admit that you just want a job where you can just turn up, get your job done and leave bang on the dot. Emphasise that you want to grow within the business and that your own aspirations are exactly the same as theirs. Make sure you focus on growth and development. If you're really not sure what they want from you, then you could turn the question around on them and say something like, is there a path people would typically follow at your company? This question at least shows that you're genuinely interested in getting the role and seriously thinking about your future at the company. But if you're the nervous type, I wouldn't recommend asking it, as asking it in the right way takes some confidence, and you have to make sure that you don't come across as argumentative or disruptive. The 10th and final question is, do you have any questions for us? Any interviewer worth their salt will ask this question at the end of an interview. It is immensely important that you have a good answer lined up for it, because if you don't, you're going to look like you're not bothered. And don't just ask the first thing that comes into your head. It's an opportunity for you to seal the deal and to confirm that you really know your stuff and demonstrate your passion for the role and the business. The best candidates will have a pre-prepared list of questions which they've generated from company research. Some of the best people I've interviewed actually produce a list of questions and start working through the ones that haven't been answered in the interview. On the receiving end of something like that, well, frankly, it's really impressive because it shows you've taken the time to learn something about my business. It shows dedication, proactivity, and commitment, so I'd strongly advise you do that. In how you specifically answer the question, you can ask probing questions such as, could you give an example of the kind of projects I'll be working on? Or an opportunities question such as, what training opportunities are available to staff? Both of these show that you're seriously interested in the role and that you're considering your future career working with their business. The same goes for questions about the business culture. If you ask something like, are you quite a close-knit team? Or what's the company culture like here? It shows that you're at least trying to imagine yourself as being part of the team. But probably the best question you could ask is, do you have any concerns about my ability to do the role? It's a classic closing question, and I know it sounds scary because you're opening yourself to criticism, but demonstrating that you're ready to meet any objections head on and still explain why you're a great fit for the role, and assuming you can answer objections well, frankly, it means you could seal the deal. This is honestly the perfect opportunity to make sure that your interviewer leaves the interview knowing that you're the only person who should be in that role. But I have to say, if you're going to ask the question, then you need to be ultra prepared. You're going to look like an idiot if you ask it, and then you're dumbstruck when they actually reply. Before the interview, take a look over the job spec and see if you can spot any skills or qualifications that you might be lacking. And if you haven't got the job spec, ask the recruiter in advance and they'll send it to you. These are the potential objections that may crop up, and these need to be the things you're ready to address. Crack this and you could crack the entire interview. In truth, you should be asking questions throughout the entire interview. Ultimately, the interview is your opportunity to work out whether the role is right for you or not. It's a two-way street, and your interviewer will be expecting you to ask some questions. So just remember to make sure that you don't leave all of them to the very end and end up interrogating your interviewer, as it may scare them off. Okay, so that's it for the 10 most common interview questions and how you should be answering them. The main takeaway is that you really need to be ultra prepared if you want to wow any interviewer, and that takes research, planning and practice. If you want more details on how to answer any of these questions, then click on the link below and download our free cheat sheet which details everything you need to know to give perfect answers to those 10 interview questions. And if you want to keep up to date with more videos and interview answering techniques, then make sure you subscribe to our channel by clicking on the subscribe button somewhere on this page. Good luck with the interview, and I hope you get the job.